gardens of Victorina. Victorina was the founder's wife. She was a great nature lover, so he built her these gardens. So she come and enjoy them. And they built a little summer house, so they could come in the summertime and enjoy these beautiful gardens. And also this was the first place to ever have a grass tennis court in Spain. So before the fountain, used to be a grass tennis court. They had seen in London, copied the idea and brought back to Jerez. Skirts of Jerez and Jerez Superior, but this is just a small sample that we have brought to the city so that people can see. So it's the exact same vines, or palomino vines, and this is, although you won't believe it, the Albariza soil. Okay, so we said the Albariza soil is very important in Jerez, firstly because it's very high in chalk content. So basically it acts like a sponge. Okay, we have relatively high rainfall in Jerez. It's similar to Rioja, as you said before, 600, 620 litres, but very centralised to a few months of the year. Okay, so you have seen this week when it rains here, it rains very heavy. But then we have from May to October with no rain at all. So it's very important that the soil absorbs all of that water. It forms a clay layer on top, and then during the very hot season, this water goes directly to the plant. Because we're not allowed to irrigate at all here in Jerez, so the only access we have to water is what's been captured by the soil. Okay, so obviously if you have your vineyard with other types of soil, with more sandy or barro, it's not going to obtain the same amount of water as the Albariza does. Okay, so you can see, for example, we've had such high rainfall over the past few days that you can see the soil, which is usually completely white and dry, you can see how much it soaks up the rain. So you can see it's completely moist. Usually you can pick big blocks of this up. It's completely moist, and then it will keep that in the soil, so that during the very hot season the plant has access to all of this water. Another important thing about the Albariza is it's very even. There's not a lot of different layers, so the plants, the vines, can get right down to about 12 metres. Okay, so they can continue to go searching for that moisture, for that water. And the other important thing is the soil does have a small clay content, about 15%, and it's a really intelligent soil because it only absorbs the amount of water it needs. Okay, because obviously we can't flood the vineyard, so the Albariza absorbs all of the water that it thinks it needs. When it's got enough water, it forms a clay layer on top so that no more water can get into the soil. Okay, so you'll see sometimes you come and there's just puddles sitting on the top of the soil, just waiting for the sun to evaporate. Okay, so it only takes the water that it needs to nourish the plant during the hot season. The other very important thing about the soil is its white colour, which you can't see today, but it's usually very white. You have to wear sunglasses. This is very important for the maturation of the grape bunch, because we have very strong sunlight here, so all the grapes that we have at the top get direct sunlight, but the fact that the soil is white reflects that sunlight back up, and it means that we have an even maturation of the grape. Okay, so the Albariza is fundamental in Jerez because it basically gives life to our plant. And also you'll see in the tasting, it also gives the wine some character. You'll find in the finos, amontillados, you get quite a mineral, saline, salty sensation coming through, which is from the Albariza soil, okay, which we'll see in the tasting. Okay, so here we have the traditional way of pruning. You can see so you know in Jerez we have a typical pruning called vara y pulgar, which basically translates to stick and thumb. So if you imagine a stick and a thumb. So for example, we let one side of the vine grow and we cut the other side back. Then next year we alternate. So we have this side of the vine and you can see it's been cut back here. So only one side of the vine will have grape bunches during one harvest. Okay. The thinking behind this system was to make the plant last longer. Okay, so we're resting every 2 years. So it means that you have good yield for maybe up to 50-60 years. Unfortunately, this way of pruning is very skillful, and the workforce are dying out. People aren't learning how to work in the vineyard anymore, so people don't really know how to do this. The other problem is, you can see when you're pruning, the trunk twists, which means that we can't machine harvest. Okay, so all the new vineyards that are being planted in Jerez are being planted with a typical double cordon system, which we have found gives just as good quality, but usually lasts slightly longer, slightly less, but you can machine harvest as well. Okay, so we are studying the variety Pulgar because it's something we want to maintain, because it's traditional and historic to Jerez, but it's difficult because it's a very difficult process, and it has to be completely hand harvested. Okay, so as I said, here we have the Palomino variety. So I don't think we have any bunches left. Okay, so traditionally the harvest here was the beginning of September, but now with the climatic change it's mid-August. Okay, so this year it started about the 15th of August. It's quite a short harvest, usually 2 weeks, 3 weeks maximum, because it's basically one variety, the Palomino. Okay. The Palomino in itself is quite a small grain, big bunches, and as you know, it's described as being quite a neutral variety. Okay, it's not that aromatic, it's not that floral. If you taste, for example, Palomino white wines, they're fresh, they're light, they're quite easy drinking. This is good for the sherry wines, because you know yourself in the sherry wines, what we want the wine to take on is what it's obtained during its aging. So either from the floor, or from the time spent in cask, or from the oxidization. Okay, so this is why the Palomino is perfect for sherry, because it has that more kind of neutral quality at the beginning, and is able to take on all the different characters it's going to find during the aging process. Okay, so we'll keep going. We also make brandy de Jerez. So we have two brands, Soberano and Lepanto. So we have them in these cellars, the one behind us, and here is the traditional cellar of Lepanto. And this is the cooperage of González Byass. So we used to make our casks on site. Nowadays we buy from out with, but we still have people working to repair casks. Okay, so we have two coopers working here who are constantly repairing all of our casks. So this was actually, you see the space here, because traditionally the train actually used to stop in the bodega to pick up the casks and take them to port. The train tracks came right through the bodega. Okay, so this cellar here is where we have our new whiskey. So you know that sherry has a lot of relation with Scotland. We send over the ex-sherry casks and they finish the whiskies. We decided to turn this on its head. So as opposed to sending the cask to Scotland, we bring the whiskey to Jerez. So this has never been done before. We only started 2 years ago. So it's called Nomad. So it's a blend of 30 different whiskies. It's made by Richard Patterson of White and Mackay. And then it spends 3 years in Scotland in ex-Oloroso casks. And then comes here and spends 1 year in PX casks. Okay, so it's very different, the influence that the temperature and the atmosphere and the humidity here has compared to back in Scotland. Okay, so it can no longer be called a Scotch because we're finishing here, but we call it Outland whiskey because it has no home. This here is Gran Bodega Tío Pepe, so this is our most modern cellar. It was built in the 70s. It's 3 floors high. It's made up of 4 huge domes, so architecturally it was amazing. And it's where the majority of the wine is aged. It has capacity for 30,000 casks. So the bottom 2 floors we have Fino and PX. And then the top floor used to be for Oloroso, but we now just have for tourists. So you can finish your visit there, you can have some drinks, some food and so. And this here is our stills for Lepanto. So Lepanto is our brandy de Jerez. which is made 100% in Jerez. So we actually use the Palomino variety, the Palomino grape, so the same grape we use for Tío Pepe. We distill here on site and we age here. So from the start right to the finish is 100% in Jerez, because most brandies are used with the Irene variety, which comes from La Mancha. So we're going to get off here.